10 years ago, a wounded cowboy rescued 3 Apache girls and vanished without asking for anything in return. Now, before the entire tribe, they returned and revealed why they had never forgotten him. When he realized who they truly were, his hands began to tremble and everyone fell silent. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment where in the world you're watching from, because now I'm going to tell you everything. The sun was already hot. Jake Carter wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. He pushed the last fence post into the hard Texas earth. A truck slowed down on the road, kicking up dust. It was Ben from the feed store. "Jake, you alive out here?" Jake gave a small wave. "Seemed to be." Ben leaned out the window. "Need anything from town? You ain't been in for 2 weeks." "I'm fine," Jake said. He looked at the post, not at Ben. "Got all I need right here." "All you got is dirt and quiet, son. Too much quiet." Ben shook his head. "Suit yourself. See you next month, maybe." The truck drove off. The dust settled. The quiet came back. It was a thick quiet, the kind Jake knew well. He walked back to his small house. It was just one room and a porch. Inside was a bed, a table, one chair, and a stove. On the table was an old photograph in a simple frame. A man, a woman, and a boy of about 17. Jake did not look at it for long. He put water on the stove for coffee. His mind went back, like it always did. He was 17. A sickness came fast to Dallas. It took his mother and father in 1 week. Just like that, he was alone. That was more than 20 years ago. He worked on ranches all over, saved every dollar, and bought this piece of land. It was not good land. It was lonely land. It suited him. The coffee boiled. He poured a cup and sat on the porch step. His 3 old cows chewed grass in the distance. The windmill squeaked its same tired song. He fixed that windmill last Tuesday. His hands were good at fixing. They could mend a fence, a broken strap, a leaky roof. Fixing things felt right. It was quiet work. "Ain't much to fix here but the fence and my own thoughts," he said to the empty yard. "And my thoughts are the rustier of the two." He finished his coffee and stood up. There was a broken hinge on the barn door. He found his tools. He worked slowly, carefully. Each turn of the screwdriver was even. The hinge was straight and tight when he was done. It was a small, good thing. Later, he ate beans from a can. He washed the single plate. He sat in the chair as the sun went down. The sky turned orange, then purple, then black. He thought about Ben's words. Asterisk. Too much quiet. Maybe it was true, but loud places and crowds made him feel wrong. He remembered the last time he tried to be part of something years ago. It ended bad. He decided it was him. He brought a shadow with him. It was better for everyone if he stayed here, where the shadow only touched him. He looked at the photograph before he blew out the lamp. The faces were faded but smiling. He did not smile back. He just nodded like he was checking in. He lay in the dark. The house did not make a sound, no creaks, no whispers, just a deep, empty silence. He was a man inside a silent bell. Sleep came slow. When it came, it was dreamless. A blank space in the long, quiet night. The first sound was a low rumble. It came through the floorboards of the small house and into Jake's cot. He opened his eyes. The sky was just turning light gray. The rumble grew. It was not thunder. It was the sound of many engines. Jake got up and pulled on his pants. He walked to the window and looked out. A line of trucks and pickups and horses came slowly down the dirt road toward his ranch. Dust rose in a big cloud behind them. There were many, many people. His heart began to beat very fast. He did not know anyone who would visit him. He thought maybe he had done something wrong. Had he put his fence on someone else's land? Did he owe money he had forgotten? He stepped out onto the porch. The morning air was cool. He stood very still as the vehicles came closer and stopped in front of his house. Doors opened. People got out. They were not dressed like the people from town. They wore jeans and boots, but also bright colors on the women's shawls. The men had long, dark hair. Jake felt a cold fear in his stomach. Then he saw 3 people walking toward him from the crowd. An old woman, a young woman, and a strong young man. Jake's eyes fixed on them. Something stirred in his memory. A hot day, a broken wagon. The old woman smiled. Her face was a map of wrinkles, but her eyes were clear and bright. The young man's face was serious. He stood tall, but he held one arm a little stiff, as if it remembered an old hurt. It was the young woman who spoke first. She had a strong, clear voice. "Mr. Carter," she said, "you do not know us, but we know you." Jake just nodded. He could not find words. "My name is Tallulah," she said. She pointed to the old woman. "This is Kaya." Then to the young man. "This is Chaitan. Do you remember a day, 10 years ago, on the road to Amarillo? The sun was brutal. Our wagon wheel had shattered." The memory came back to Jake all at once. It was like a door opening. The blinding white sun, the dust, a family by the side of the road, looking desperate. An old woman sitting in the scarce shade of the broken wagon, her eyes closed. A young man with a bloody arm, a fierce young woman trying to lift the wagon by herself. "I remember," Jake said, his voice rough from sleep and surprise. "You stopped," Chaitan said. His voice was low and firm. "You gave your water to Kaya. You used leather from your own saddle to bind our wheel. You asked for nothing." "It was nothing," Jake said, repeating the words he had thought then. "Anyone would have done it." "No," Kaya said, her voice soft but strong. "Many would have ridden past. You stopped. You saw people, not a problem." Tallulah took a step closer. "You asked for no thanks, but we have carried it with us for 10 years. We must tell you what you did that day." She took a deep breath. "You did not just help 3 travelers. You saved our whole tribe." Jake shook his head, confused. "I just fixed a wheel." "That wheel was our world," Tallulah said. She gestured to Kaya. "Kaya is the mother of our chief. She is our wisdom, our memory. If the heat had taken her that day, 1,000 stories would have died with her." She touched her own chest. "I am the chief's only daughter. My life is pledged to my people." Finally, she motioned to Chaitan. "Chaitan was chosen to be our future leader. He was my promised husband. The cut on his arm was deep. Without your help, he might have lost it, or his life." Jake looked at their faces. He saw the truth there. He had never thought of it. He just saw people who needed help. "You gave us water and leather and kindness," Tallulah continued. "In one act, you saved our past." She looked at Kaya. "Our present." She looked at Chaitan. "And our future." She looked back at Jake. "You saved all 3. The people behind them were silent, listening. Jake felt their eyes on him. He felt exposed, like a stone turned over to show the soft earth underneath. He had lived so long thinking his actions did not matter. Now this group of strangers was telling him a single afternoon had shaped their lives. "We have come," Kaya said, "because a debt of the heart must be paid. A life for a life, a family for a family." Jake looked from her kind, old eyes to Tallulah's serious ones, to Chaitan's unreadable expression. The quiet of his ranch was gone, replaced by the breathing of many people and the weight of a story he never knew was his. He slowly took off his hat, just like he had 10 years ago. This time, he did not know what to say. The words, "You're welcome," felt too small. All he could do was stand there, a lonely man on his quiet land, as the past he had forgotten came back to change everything. A long silence followed Kaya's words. The only sound was the wind moving through the dry grass. Jake held his hat in his hands, turning the brim around and around. A debt of the heart, a family for a family. His mind moved slowly, trying to understand. Tallulah looked at the elders behind her, then back at Jake. "Our thanks is not just words, Mr. Carter. We have spoken for many days. We have a gift for you. It is the highest honor our people can give." Jake's throat felt tight. "You don't need to give me anything, really. Seeing you all well, that's enough." "It is not enough," Chaitan said. His voice was not angry, but it was firm. "A life is a circle. You put a piece of yourself into our circle. We must make you part of it, so the circle is whole again." Kaya nodded. She stepped forward, her steps slow but sure. She looked up at Jake. "You live alone. You have no family. We see the loneliness in this place. Our gift is to end that loneliness, to bind you to us forever." Jake's heart began to beat faster. He did not know what they meant. He looked at their serious faces. Tallulah took a deep breath. She looked directly into Jake's eyes. "The gift is a marriage. You will marry me. This will make you a son to our chief, a brother to our warriors. You will be family, truly." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. He took a small step back. The porch step felt unsteady under his boot. He looked at Tallulah. She was beautiful and strong, but her face showed no smile. It showed duty. He looked at the crowd. Every person was watching him. He looked at Chayton. The young man's jaw was tight, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Marry. Jake could not finish the word. Yes, Kaya said softly. A bridge between your world and ours. A place for you, with us. You will have a home. You will have people. Jake's thoughts were a storm. He was a man who fixed fences. He was a man who ate beans from a can. He was a man who carried a quiet sadness for 20 years. He was not a man who received gifts like this. I can't, he whispered. But the words were lost in the wind. Why? Tallulah asked, her voice still clear. Do you have a wife? Do you have another family? No, Jake said quickly. No, nothing like that. Then it is a good match, Kaya said. Tallulah is strong. You are a good man. Together, you will be stronger for the tribe. Jake's eyes went back to Chayton. But he was her promised husband. He said it without thinking. Chayton's eyes snapped to his. A flash of pain and pride was there. Then it was gone. That was before, Chayton said, his voice low. The old path is broken. You broke it when you saved my life. This is the new path. It is my choice, Tallulah said. She said it to Jake, but also to Chayton and to everyone. I choose this for my people. I choose to welcome you. Jake felt the weight of it all. This was not a simple thank you. This was a life. They were offering him a whole new life. The loneliness of the ranch, the silent house, the empty years, they were offering to take it all away. But it was so big, so sudden. He thought of his parents' photograph on the table inside. He had been alone for so long, he thought that was his place. He believed he did not deserve more. Kaya seemed to see his struggle. A good heart should not be alone, she said. You gave from your heart without asking. Now let us give to yours. Jake looked at Tallulah. Is this what you want? Her dark eyes were honest. It is what is needed. My wants are not the point. You are a good man, that is the point. It was not a promise of love. It was a promise of respect, of duty. To Jake, who had known so little of either, it felt more real than pretty words. His hands were shaking. He looked out at the tribe, at their waiting, open faces. He saw no trick. He saw a deep, serious love, a gratitude so big it had to change his world. He felt a crack in the wall around his heart. A sliver of light came in. It was terrifying. It was the most beautiful thing he had felt in 20 years. Slowly, he put his hat back on his head. He stood up a little straighter. He looked at Tallulah and gave a single small nod. Yes, he said. The word was quiet, but it carried in the stillness. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Kaya smiled a wide, warm smile. Tallulah nodded back, a formal acceptance. And then the tribe cheered. The sound filled the empty space around Jake's ranch. Men shouted, women laughed. The sound was alive, so different from the quiet he knew. Jake saw Chayton turn and walk away from the crowd, his shoulders stiff. He saw Tallulah watch him go, a flicker of sadness in her eyes before she looked back at Jake. The people began to move forward, smiling, reaching out to touch his arm, to say his name. He was surrounded. The loneliness was gone. In its place was a roar of belonging that was so loud it was almost the same as silence. He was not sure if he was drowning or finally coming up for air. He just knew his life was different now. The move happened in one day. Jake's few things fit into a single corner of the truck. His old life looked very small in the rearview mirror. Tallulah drove. She did not talk much. Jake watched the flat land roll by until they turned onto a different road, leading to the tribe's land. The houses were not like his. Some were modern, some were older. Children played with dogs. People looked up as the truck passed. They waved at Tallulah. They looked at Jake with curious eyes. This is your home now, Tallulah said. She stopped in front of a small house made of pale clay and wood. This was my grandmother's. It is ours now. Jake got out. The air smelled different here, like wood smoke and dried herbs, not just dust. Inside, the house was clean and simple. There was a main room, a kitchen, and 2 sleeping rooms. One room had a large bed. The other room was empty. You can have this room, Tallulah said, pointing to the empty one. A folded bedroll and blankets sat on the floor. It is a good space. Jake understood. The marriage was for the tribe. It was not a real marriage, not yet. He nodded. Thank you, it's fine. That evening, Kaya brought food. It was stew, but the flavors were new to Jake. There were spices he did not know. He ate it all to be polite. It is good, he said. Kaya smiled. You will learn our tastes. Your stomach will learn too. After dinner, Tallulah sat with him. Tomorrow, you will meet the men at the community house. You will work with them. It is important to listen first. Do not offer advice, just watch. I can do that, Jake said. Chayton will be there, she said. Her voice was careful. He is a good leader, but his heart is heavy. Be respectful. I will, Jake said. He wanted to ask more, but Tallulah stood up. Sleep well, Jake. Tomorrow is a new day. The morning came with new sounds, birds he did not know, a bell calling people together, the distant sound of horses. Jake put on his work clothes and followed Tallulah to a large round building. 10 men were inside repairing harnesses and tools. They all stopped talking when Jake walked in. An older man with gray hair stood up. He was Tallulah's father, the chief. His name was Robert. He shook Jake's hand. Welcome, Jake. We are glad you are here. You will work with Ben and Luis today on the horse fence. A man named Ben nodded. Luis just looked at him. Chayton was in the corner, sharpening a knife on a stone. He did not look up. The work was hard. The sun was hot. Jake knew how to build fence. He worked quietly, doing what Ben asked. He felt the other men watching his hands, watching how he moved. At midday, they sat in the shade to drink water. Chayton sat apart from the group. Luis spoke to Jake. You have your own ranch, yes? Why leave it? It wasn't much, Jake said. This is more. You are used to working alone, Chayton said, not looking at him. Here, we work as one. The fence is not your fence, it is everyone's fence. I understand, Jake said. Do you? Chayton finally looked at him. His eyes were dark and intense. Your way is to fix what is broken. Our way is to build so it does not break. It is different. Jake nodded. He did not know what to say. He felt clumsy, like his words were too big for his mouth. Later, back at the house, Tallulah asked about his day. It was fine. We worked on the fence. And the men? They were good to you? They were okay. Chayton, he has strong opinions. Tallulah sighed. She was writing in a small leather notebook. He has a right to his feelings. But he will not be unfair. He is too proud for that. She looked at Jake's hands, dirty from the work. You are trying. That is what matters. My father sees it. That night, as Jake lay on his bedroll, he heard a sound outside his window. It was a low, rhythmic tapping. He looked out. Chayton was sitting by a small fire a few houses away. He had a piece of dark stone and a tool. He was hitting the stone carefully, shaping it. His face was focused, but tight with some deep feeling. Tap, tap, tap. Jake watched for a moment, then lay back down. The sound of the chipping stone followed him into sleep. It was the sound of a man making something sharp, and Jake did not know if it was for hunting or for something else. He just knew he was in a new world with new rules, and every sound had a meaning he had yet to learn. The tapping sound from Chayton's flint knapping was gone the next morning. In its place was a different kind of tension. Jake worked with Luis to fix a gate on the north pasture. That's where they found the cut fence. The wire was not broken from weather or an animal. It was cut clean through with bolt cutters. 4 posts were pulled up. The tribe's cattle had wandered through the gap onto the neighboring land. This is not an accident, Luis said, his voice hard. He pointed at the clean cuts in the wire. Who lives there? Jake asked, looking at the vast ranch that stretched to the horizon. Harlow Clayton, Luis spat the name. He wants this land. He says there is oil under it. He uses lawyers and now, this. They worked in silence to mend the fence and round up the cows. When they returned to the community house, Chief Robert and several other men were talking, their faces serious. Chayton stood with them, listening. It is Clayton, an older man named Henry said. He tests us. He thinks we are weak. We should move the cattle further south, Robert said, and patrol the fence lines at night. That is running, Chayton said, his voice sharp. He cuts. We run. He will only push harder. Fighting him with fists will only bring his lawyers and the police, Robert said calmly. We must be smart. All their eyes turned to Jake. He felt their look. He was the new piece in this game. You know this man, Jake? Robert asked. I know of him. Big rancher. I've never spoken to him. He will try to speak to you, Chayton said. It was not a question. He sees a white face with us now. He will think you are a weak spot, a door he can open. 2 days later, Jake went into the nearest town, San Miguel, for supplies with Tallulah. At the general store, the clerk, an older woman named Mary, was polite, but her smile was tight. How are things out on the reservation, Tallulah? Mary asked as she bagged flour. They are well, thank you, Tallulah said. I heard there's been some trouble with cattle. Fences down, Mary said, not looking at them. Where did you hear that? Jake asked. Oh, you know, talk, Mary shrugged. Harlow Clayton was in here yesterday, said he's having awful trouble with stray cattle messing up his grazing land, said it's getting costly. Jake felt Tallulah go still beside him. This was the lie starting. As they carried the bags to the truck, a big, clean silver truck pulled up beside them. A man got out. He was in his 50s, with a wide smile that did not touch his eyes. He wore a crisp shirt and new jeans. Well, hello there, the man said. You must be Jake Carter. I'm Harlow Clayton, your neighbor. He held out a hand. Jake shook it. The grip was firm, meant to show strength. Mr. Clayton, I heard about your new situation. Quite a story. Harlow's eyes flicked to Tallulah, then back to Jake. A man wants to provide for his new family. I respect that. It's why I wanted to have a friendly talk. What about? Jake asked. About your future. Ranching that scrubland with them? It's a hard life, a poor life. I'm a businessman. I see a better solution. Harlow leaned against his truck. I want to buy that tribal land. I'll pay a good price, more than it's worth for grazing. You could talk to them. Be the voice of reason. A white man understands land value. They'd listen to you. There'd be a big finder's fee in it for you. Enough to buy your own place, a real place. You and your wife could be comfortable. Jake felt Tallulah's eyes on him. He heard Chayton's words in his head. Asterisk. A weak spot. A door he can open. The land is not mine to sell, Jake said, his voice flat. It's not for sale. Harlow's smile stayed, but his eyes went cold. Now that's just sentiment talking. Sentiment doesn't feed cattle. Look, their cattle are already on my land, eating my grass. That's a problem. Problems need solutions. I'm offering one. The fence was cut, Mr. Clayton, Jake said. That's the problem. The friendly mask slipped for just a second. You calling me a liar, son? I'm stating a fact. The wire was cut. Harlow pushed off from his truck. The false warmth was gone. I tried to be neighborly. I tried to give you a way out. You're choosing to stand with them. Remember, a man in the middle is a man who can be pushed. He looked at Tallulah, then back at Jake. You think they really see you as family? You're a tool to them, and when a tool breaks, you throw it away. He got in his truck and drove off. The ride home was quiet. Finally, Tallulah spoke. What he said about being a tool, it is not true. I know, Jake said, but he stared out the window. He saw the cut fence, heard the lies in the store, saw Harlow's cold eyes. He was not just living with the tribe anymore. He was standing in front of them, and a man with a bolt cutter and a silver truck was taking aim. The quiet work of building fence was over. Now, he was part of the fence itself, and someone was testing how hard he was to break. The next week was tense. The men took turns walking the fence lines at night. Jake took a turn with Luis. They saw nothing but stars and the dark shapes of cows. But the feeling of being watched did not go away. Then, on a night when the wind was strong from the north, the fire started. Jake woke to the sound of shouting. He jumped from his bedroll. The sky through his window was not black, but a flickering orange. Tallulah was already at the front door, pulling on a coat. What is it? He asked. The meeting house, she said, her voice tight with fear. They ran outside. The old round building at the center of the community was engulfed in flames. The wind pushed the fire high into the sky. Men and women were already forming a line from the water pump, passing buckets. The heat was immense. Jake ran to the line. He took a bucket from Chayton. Their hands touched on the handle. Chayton's face was smudged with soot, his eyes wide with an anger that looked like panic. "It is too late," an older man cried. "We cannot save it." They fought the fire for 3 hours. They could only stop it from spreading to nearby homes. The old meeting house, made of dry wood, burned down to a black, smoking circle on the ground. As the sun rose, the tribe stood around it, silent. Children cried softly. The smell of wet ash was everywhere. Kaya stood with her son, Chief Robert. Her small hand held his arm. Her face was a mask of grief. "Everything inside," Robert said, his voice broken. "The old carvings, the pictures, the stories." "Harlow Clayton," a young warrior named Ben said, spitting the words. "He did this. He cut our fences and now he burns our history." A rumble of agreement went through the crowd. Hands clenched into fists. "We find him now," Ben shouted. "We make him pay." "Wait," Robert said, raising a hand. But his voice was heavy with sorrow. The anger of the young men was a living thing in the air. Jake's heart pounded. He believed it too. Harlow had threatened them. This was the next step. He felt a hot rage in his own chest. He walked away from the crowd, toward the edge of the burned circle. He wanted to see. He needed to see what was left. The ground was hot under his boots. He kicked at a blackened piece of wood. His eyes scanned the ashes, looking for anything that might have survived. He saw nothing but ruin. Then, a small flash of color caught his eye. It was near the base of a thick post that had fallen. The post was charred black. Wrapped around a jagged piece of it was a thin, twisted strand of metal. It was silver, but darkened by smoke. Jake knelt down. He carefully pulled it free. It was a broken piece of a bracelet. It had a simple design of stamped lines. It was not completely melted. It must have caught on the wood as the person ran away. He turned it over in his palm. His blood went cold. He had seen this bracelet before. He saw it every day. Chayton wore it on his right wrist, a gift from his father given to him when he became a man. Jake's head snapped up. He looked across the ashes to where Chayton stood with the other men. Chayton's arms were crossed. His right wrist was bare. A sickness twisted in Jake's stomach. The noise of the angry tribe faded to a buzz in his ears. He looked from the bracelet piece in his hand to Chayton's empty wrist and back again. Tallulah walked over to him. Her face was streaked with tears and ash. "It is all gone, Jake." He closed his fist quickly, hiding the metal. "Yeah," he said, his voice rough. "We will rebuild," she said, but she sounded like she was saying it to herself. "We have to." Jake just nodded. He could not look at her. He looked at Chayton instead. Chayton was staring right at the burned spot where Jake knelt. Their eyes met. For a second, Chayton's proud face showed something else, a raw, terrified shame. Then he turned away. Jake stood up slowly. The piece of silver felt like a burning coal in his closed hand. He had a terrible truth in his pocket, and no idea what to do with it. The anger of the tribe was aimed at Harlow Clayton, a bad man who deserved their hate. But Jake now held proof that the enemy might be standing right beside them, wearing a look of grief that was all too real. The piece of bracelet felt like it was burning a hole in Jake's pocket and all day. He worked with the others to clear the blackened wood, but his movements were slow, his mind far away. He watched Chayton. Chayton worked harder than anyone, his face set in a grim mask. He did not look at Jake. As the sun began to set, Jake saw Chayton walk away from the group toward a cluster of cottonwood trees near the dry creek bed. This was the chance. Jake followed. The trees gave a little cover from the wind. Chayton was standing with his back to him, looking at the waterless ground. "Chayton," Jake said. Chayton turned. His eyes were tired. "What do you want?" Jake did not know how to start. He just took the piece of silver from his pocket and held it out in his open palm. He did not say a word. Chayton's eyes went to the metal. His whole body stiffened. The color drained from his face. For a long time, he just stared at it. The silence between them was complete. "Where did you find that?" Chayton's voice was a whisper. "On the post, at the meeting house. It was caught on the wood." Chayton closed his eyes. He swayed a little on his feet. When he opened his eyes, they were full of a terrible shame. "I looked for it. After. I could not find it." "So it's yours," Jake said. It was not a question. Chayton nodded, a slow, painful movement. "Yes." "Why?" The word came out harsh. "Why would you do this?" Chayton looked at the ground. His proud shoulders slumped. "I was meant to protect them. My whole life, that was my path. Then you came. You saved us once, and they gave you everything. My place, my future, Tallulah. He finally looked at Jake, and his eyes were begging for understanding. I felt like a shadow, a man with no purpose. The tribe was angry at Harlow, but they were just talking. Talking does not stop a man like that. So you thought a fire would? Jake could not keep the anger out of his voice. I thought a small fire, just a corner of the old wood. Something to make them see the danger was real. Something to make them act. I wanted them to be angry. I wanted to be the one to lead them against Harlow, to be the hero again, to have my place back. A tear cut through the soot on his cheek. But the wind, it took the flame so fast. I tried to beat it out with my coat. That is when the bracelet caught. I ran. I was a coward. Jake stared at him. He saw the truth. This was not the act of an evil man. It was the act of a broken one, a man who let jealousy and shame poison his heart. He felt his anger mix with a deep, sad pity. You destroyed their history to make yourself feel important. I know, Chayton choked out. I know what I have done. The fire in my heart burned down our house. I am ashes. What do I do with this? Jake asked, holding up the bracelet piece. The whole tribe thinks it was Harlow. They want to fight. If I tell them, they will banish me, Chayton finished. His voice was flat, accepting. Or worse, I will be nothing, a story of shame. And if I don't tell them, Harlow gets blamed for something he didn't do. It gives them a reason for a war he probably wants. People could get killed. Jake shoved the medal back in his pocket. You put this in my hands. Why? Because you are a good man, Chayton said simply. You are the man I was supposed to be. So you tell me, Jake Carter, what does a good man do? Jake had no answer. He felt the weight of the tribe's trust and the heavier weight of this secret. To tell would break the tribe's heart and maybe break them apart. To not tell would let a lie lead them into violence. I have to think, Jake said. Do not think too long, Chayton said. The anger is a fire now too. It will spread. Jake turned and walked back towards the houses. The sky was dark. Lights were on in the windows. In one window, he saw Tallulah moving in their kitchen, preparing a meal. She believed their enemy was outside. She had no idea the real damage came from within. He stood in the dark, a man caught between two truths. Protecting the tribe meant telling a truth that would shatter them. Protecting them also meant hiding a truth that could get them killed. He thought of Kaya's kind eyes, of Robert's steady leadership, of the children who cried over the lost stories. The piece of silver in his pocket was the key to a door. He did not know what was on the other side, only that once he opened it, nothing would be the same. Jake found Tallulah outside their house. She was sitting on a low bench looking at the stars. Her leather notebook was closed in her lap. I need to talk to you, he said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. She looked up. What is wrong? He sat next to her. He took the piece of bracelet from his pocket and placed it in her hand. I found this at the meeting house, after the fire. Tallulah's fingers closed around it. She knew what it was immediately. Her breath caught. This is Chayton's. Yes. How did you get it? It was caught on a burnt post. I found it yesterday morning. Jake took a deep breath. I talked to Chayton today. I showed it to him. Tallulah's eyes were wide, staring at him. What did he say? He told me the truth. He set the fire. For a moment, she did not move. She did not breathe. Then her whole face seemed to collapse. She put a hand over her mouth. A small, pained sound escaped. No, he would not. He did. He wanted to make the tribe angry at Harlow. He wanted to be the hero who led the fight. He wanted his place back. Jake's words were soft, but each one felt like a stone dropped between them. Tears filled Tallulah's eyes. His place. Because of me. Because of us. This is not because of you, Jake said firmly. This was his choice. A bad choice. She stood up suddenly, pacing a few steps away. We must tell my father. We must tell the elders. I know, Jake said. But if we tell them, the tribe is already hurt and angry. This will break them apart. Chayton thinks they will send him away forever. He should have thought of that before he lit the match. Tallulah's voice was sharp with grief. She turned back to Jake. You have known since yesterday? Why did you not come to me then? I was trying to figure out the right thing to do. Telling hurts the tribe. Not telling could get people killed if they go after Harlow for a crime he didn't do. I was stuck. Tallulah wiped her eyes. She took a long, shaky breath. When she spoke again, her voice was more controlled. You were trying to protect us, but hiding this truth is not protection. It is another kind of fire. It will burn everything from the inside. She looked at the medal in her hand. We go to my father now, and Chayton comes with us. He must say the words himself. They found Chayton at his family's home. He was sitting outside alone. When he saw them and saw the look on Tallulah's face, he knew. He stood up, ready. You will come with us, Tallulah said. It was not a request. He nodded, silent. Chief Robert, Kaya, and 3 other elders were in Robert's house. They looked up as the 3 of them entered. The room felt very small. Father, Tallulah said. Her voice did not waver. Jake found something at the fire, and we have learned the truth. Chayton has something to say. Robert's kind face was tired. What is this? Chayton stepped forward. He did not look at anyone. He looked at the floor. The fire at the meeting house. I said it. The silence in the room was absolute. One of the elders, a man named George, stood up. What did you say? I set the fire, Chayton repeated, a little louder. I used a little gasoline on the old wood. I meant it to be small, just to make everyone see the threat from Harlow Clayton. I wanted to be the one to unite us against him. The wind took it. I could not stop it. I am the reason it is gone. His shoulders began to shake, but he did not cry. Robert sank into his chair, his hand over his heart. Kaya closed her eyes. Why? George asked, his voice trembling with rage. Why would you do this to your own people? Because I was jealous, Chayton shouted, finally looking up. His eyes were full of torment. I felt small. I felt replaced. I wanted to be important again. I am so sorry. I am so ashamed. The elders began talking all at once. Voices were loud and angry. Words like banishment and betrayal filled the air. Then Jake spoke. I knew yesterday. I did not tell anyone until I told Tallulah tonight. The angry voices stopped. All eyes turned to him. You hid this? Robert asked, shocked. For one day, Jake said. I hid it because I was afraid. I saw how hurt everyone was. I did not want to hurt you more. I thought if I could find another way. But there is no other way. Tallulah is right. Hiding the truth is just another poison. Kaya opened her eyes. She looked at Jake, then at Chayton. A truth that hurts is still a truth. It must be cleaned, like a wound, or it festers. She looked at her son. What do we do? Robert stood up. He looked old and sad. Chayton, you are like a son to me. You have broken trust. You have hurt every person here. You cannot be a leader. You cannot stand in council. Chayton nodded, accepting the sentence. You will do the hardest work for the tribe for 1 year, Robert continued. You will rebuild the meeting house with your own hands. You will carry the shame. You will live with what you have done. We will not banish you. Banishment is easy. Living with your failure and working to mend it, that is hard. That is your punishment. The other elders nodded slowly. It was a harsh mercy. Chayton broke then. He fell to his knees, sobbing. Thank you. Thank you. But the damage was done. As they left the house, Jake saw the tribe outside. People had heard the raised voices. They saw Chayton on his knees. The news spread like a cold wind. The unity they had after the fire was gone. Now there was a different pain, a deeper confusion. People looked at Jake with new questions. They looked at Chayton with anger and disbelief. The tribe was still standing, but a crack had split right through its heart. And outside, in the dark, Harlow Clayton was still out there, waiting. 2 days passed. The tribe moved like people in a bad dream. The work on the new meeting house began, but the sounds were quiet. Just the thud of hammers, no talking or singing. Chayton worked alone, hauling the heaviest logs. People turned their eyes away from him. Jake felt the change too. The friendly nods were fewer. Some people looked at him with doubt. He had hidden the truth, even for a day. He understood. He was helping Tallulah fix a chicken coop when the sound started. It was a low rumble, like the day the tribe first arrived at his ranch. But this was not the sound of grateful visitors. Tallulah stood up straight, her hand shading her eyes. Trucks, many trucks. From the north road, a line of vehicles came fast, kicking up a huge wall of dust. 4 big trucks. They did not slow down. They drove straight toward the tribe's pasture fence and did not stop. The wooden fence exploded into splinters as the trucks crashed through. Men jumped out. They carried rifles and metal pipes. In the lead truck was Harlow Clayton. He stood by the door, a loudspeaker in his hand. His voice echoed across the land. "This is a lawful eviction. You are trespassing on mineral rights owned by Clayton Resources. You have 1 hour to clear off this land." Chief Robert and the other men ran from the community house. They carried tools, a few hunting rifles. They formed a line between Harlow's men and the homes. "This is our land, Clayton," Robert shouted back. "We have the papers. You leave now." Harlow laughed. "Your papers aren't worth the ash from that burned-down shack of yours. You're weak. You're divided. I'm not asking anymore." He nodded to his men. They began to advance. Jake ran to stand with the tribe's men. His heart hammered against his ribs. He saw the faces of Harlow's men, hard, cold faces. He picked up a heavy piece of firewood. "Stay back, Jake," Louise said next to him. "This is our fight." "It's my fight too," Jake said. Then he saw Chayton. He was running from the building site. He carried no tool, no weapon. He ran straight to the front of the tribe's line, placing himself directly in front of Robert. "You will not touch him," Chayton said to Harlow, his voice loud and clear. Harlow smirked. "The disgraced warrior. You going to burn me out too?" The insult hit its mark, but Chayton did not flinch. "I am here to stand for my people. That is all." Harlow waved his hand. "Fine. Clear them out." A man with a metal pipe charged at Chayton. Chayton moved fast. He ducked under the swing and grabbed the man's arm, twisting it until the pipe clattered to the ground. Another man came at Jake, swinging a rifle like a club. Jake blocked it with his piece of wood. The shock vibrated up his arms. The pasture became a scene of yelling and fighting. It was not a clean battle. It was a messy, brutal struggle. The tribe's men fought with a desperate strength. They were defending their homes. Jake fought next to Luis. He saw Tallulah and the other women helping the children to safety. He saw Kaya standing firm on her porch, watching everything. Then, a large man with a red beard broke through and headed straight for Chief Robert. Robert was trying to help an elder who had fallen. The man raised a pipe high. "Father!" Tallulah screamed. Jake was too far away. But Chayton was not. Chayton roared. He threw himself at the red-bearded man, tackling him to the ground. They rolled. The pipe skittered away. Chayton was on top, his fists striking. But another of Harlow's men came from behind. This man had a knife. The man pulled his arm back to strike at Chayton's exposed back. Jake saw it. Without thinking, he threw his piece of wood. It hit the man with the knife in the shoulder, making him stumble. The knife slash went wide, cutting Chayton's arm instead of his back. Chayton turned, grabbing the knife man's wrist. He twisted hard. The knife fell. Jake reached them, grabbing the knife man and pulling him away. Chayton looked at Jake, his chest heaving. Blood soaked his sleeve. There was a moment, just a fraction of a second, where their eyes met. No words were needed. The debt was clear. The fight turned. The tribe, seeing Chayton and Jake fighting side by side, found new strength. They pushed Harlow's men back toward their trucks. One of the truck windows shattered. Another truck had its tires slashed. Harlow stood by his door, his face purple with rage. He saw his men falling back, stumbling, defeated. "This isn't over," he yelled. "It is today," Robert shouted back. "Leave, now!" Harlow looked at the determined faces of the tribe, now united in a solid line. He looked at Jake and Chayton, bloodied but standing together. He cursed, then jumped into his truck. "Retreat! Get back!" The other men scrambled into the remaining trucks. They turned around, driving back the way they came, over the broken fence. Silence fell, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing and soft cries. The tribe stood together in the wrecked pasture. They had not won a war, but they had won this day. Chayton looked at the cut on his arm, then at Jake. He gave a single, slow nod. Jake returned it. The crack in the tribe's heart was still there, but for the first time since the fire, something else was holding the pieces together. It was the shared dirt and sweat and blood on the ground. The days after the fight were filled with work, but the work felt different. The men repaired the broken fence together. This time, Chayton worked in the middle of them. He did not lead, he listened. He took orders from Luis and from Jake. His wounded arm was bandaged, but he did not slow down. In the evening of the third day, Chayton found Jake fixing a hinge on the new chicken coop door. "Jake," Chayton said. Jake looked up. "Yeah?" Chayton stood awkwardly for a moment. "I never said thank you for stopping that knife." "You saved the chief first," Jake said. "We're even." "We are not even," Chayton said. He looked at the ground, then back at Jake. "You could have let it happen. After what I did, many men would have. You did not. You saved me, even when I did not deserve it. Everyone deserves a chance to make things right," Jake said. "You took yours." Chayton nodded. He held out his hand. "I was wrong about you. You are not a tool. You are a good man, a brother." Jake looked at the offered hand. He remembered the first time he saw Chayton 10 years ago on that hot road, bleeding and proud. He took Chayton's hand and shook it. The grip was firm, but not a challenge. It was an agreement. When Jake walked back to the house, Tallulah was waiting for him. She had a bowl of warm water and clean cloths. "Sit," she said. "Your knuckles are cut." He sat at the table. She took his hand and began to clean the small cuts gently. "You and Chayton were talking," she said. "We were. It looked like a good talk." "It was," Jake said. He watched her face as she worked. Her dark hair was loose around her shoulders. She was focused on her task. "You have been good for us, Jake," she said softly. "I did not see it at first. I only saw the duty. I did not see the man." "You had your reasons," he said. "They were small reasons," she said. She looked up at him. "I was wrong too. I thought my heart was not the point. But it is. It is the whole point." She put the cloth down. She did not let go of his hand. "When I saw that man with the knife behind you, my heart stopped. It was not fear for the tribe. It was fear for you. For my husband." Jake's breath caught in his chest. He had never heard her call him that before, not in a way that meant something. "I do not want a marriage of paper and duty," Tallulah said. Her eyes were honest and open. "I want a marriage of true hearts. I think my heart is yours, Jake Carter, if you will have it." He looked at her, this strong, smart, brave woman. He thought of his lonely ranch, his silent house, the years of quiet sadness. He thought of the photograph of his parents and how they would want him to be happy. He turned his hand so that he was holding hers. "My heart has been yours since the day you stood in front of your whole tribe and said you chose me. I just didn't know how to say it." A real smile broke across her face, bright and warm. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Later that week, the tribe held a simple meal outside. The new meeting house was just a frame, but it was a start. Kaya sat next to Jake. She handed him a plate of food. "You look different," she said, her old eyes twinkling. "I feel different," he said. "The circle is mended," she said. "Not the same as before, stronger in the broken places. You are the new strand that binds it." Jake looked around the fire. He saw Luis telling a story, making people laugh. He saw Chayton listening, a small, quiet smile on his face. He saw Chief Robert nodding in approval. He saw Tallulah talking with the other women, and she looked over at him, her smile just for him. He was not a visitor. He was not a tool. He was Jake Carter. He was a husband. He was a brother. He was home. That night, for the first time, Jake did not sleep on the bedroll in the small room. He shared the large bed with Tallulah. He lay in the dark, listening to the new sounds of his life, the sound of her breathing, the distant call of an owl, the wind in the cottonwood trees. The quiet was still there, but it was a different kind of quiet. It was a peaceful quiet. It was the quiet of a man who was no longer alone. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in 20 years, he did not dream of the past. He slept, knowing his future was right there beside him.